Hey everyone, we're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. As ever, I'm Dr. Erin.
Dr. Kristen.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Netflix's limited series, Unbelievable. We are up to episode 4, which is the halfway point of this series, not season necessarily. And so we have some comments about the patriarchy for this one. The gist of this episode is our Marie, back in Washington, has gotten her criminal citation. She goes to court to find out about it, finds out she has a warrant against her because they sent the information about her court date to the wrong address. A whole lot of drama happens, but she ends up getting it sorted and gets a lawyer. The lawyer advises her that she's going to have to take a plea deal to get a reduction in fines and to not go to prison. Just take a minute for that. The wrong person being incarcerated in this one. And there ends up being another woman who was raped in Seattle, I think, or near to Linwood, Washington, matching the same description as what Marie describes. And she has a really heartbreaking scene with one of her former foster moms that's just like, you're so confused. You said this didn't happen. Did it happen? This is the same. This is exactly what you described. And to watch her go through the fact that she is now in a position where she can't talk about it. Because her lawyer has advised her that she can't go to the police for anything, she can't cause any trouble, or she won't get this plea deal.
It was a great episode on Marie's story of highlighting some of the big holes in our justice system. Mm-hmm. Marie has no clear education in how anything works. Like, she doesn't understand, and some of that is, a lot more of us watch Law and Order now than perhaps we did. But she didn't. And she didn't know, she at this point has been abandoned by so many people who she thought would be her advocate that she had no idea where to go. She didn't know what to do. It appears that the people at her housing project are constrained by some, I'm going to guess, funding rules and or state rules.
Yeah, they certainly have rules that they have to adhere to.
And you can tell sometimes on their faces that they don't want to be enforcing these, but they have to.
That was hard.
And I really am, I'm a lot more sympathetic to one set of foster parents than her other foster mom.
Yeah, but I understand that foster mom, I think, in this episode, because they end up having the two foster moms have that conversation where the one's saying, like, did you hear about this report?
Yeah.
Like, I talked to her. And I remembered in watching it a second time that the foster mom that she first went to, that she first called, is the one who is herself a survivor of sexual assault. And she thinks that this is the way to cope with it. And what she says is, I just want Marie to be able to move on from this. Like, I want her, I forget, she uses 3 words that all start with the letter S, but like safe, secure, and something, And like in her mind, I think she thinks she's doing what's best for Marie. And she, she knows kind of the long-term effects of dealing or not dealing with this. And she wants her to be able to move on with her life. And she can't do that if she rejects this plea deal and goes. And it's hard watching it thinking like, yes, but there's a rapist out there. But I think she's driven by her own trauma experiences as well. And it's not how I think I would behave. But I felt like I understood her a little bit more. I was like, this is how she knows how to cope. And it might not be the right thing at all. And it might not be the right thing for Marie, but that's the right thing for that woman. And she doesn't know any other way. So.
Yeah, it was still, I was just struck with, how much we need court-appointed safety advocates and how much we need, because I understand the state classifies Marie as an adult on some level, but she's really clearly not. Mm-hmm. And so how do we work with that? And actually offline, we were having a conversation with a colleague who's about to step into the aftercare space for students in another country than the United States, and talking about the complicated problems of students, of underage people who leave care.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy solution anywhere. Yeah. And it certainly was even more complicated in 2008 when we had even kind of less resources available than we do now.
Yes, but flashing forward in the episode to 2011, at the end of episode 3, our entrepreneurial detectives, Rasmussen and Duvall, the best 2 ladies I've seen on television in a long time, have found a 3rd victim in Denver, in the Denver metro area in Aurora. And so we get to meet her, and she's a fraternity mom, and she's like making scones, and my heart breaks for all these women. And so they start to investigate the Aurora case and any similarities. They bring in the FBI, which is really interesting. And they make a decision not to tell him that they think it's a cop, which I think is one of the more interesting side stories of this series. It's not like one of the main plot points, but it's one of those small ways that they show you how difficult it is just to investigate these types of crimes, full stop. But I think everything is kind of exacerbated by the gender of the two detectives.
Yeah.
And they're very, very conscious of that, obviously. Not perhaps the most conscious of it when they get a kind of skeevy student come in and say like, oh, well, I know this guy who does things to girls. And it was just...
It was weird. Like at one point they showed his hands twitching and I thought we were going to find out that like this other kid raped his girlfriend, you know, like it was a weird, I mean, people are weird. So this isn't like a plot hole necessarily. It was just the acting choices by the extra was interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I give them credit. I give the show credit for kind of tackling college campus related sexual assaults and those dynamics and relationships and, you know, even the power dynamics within masculine identities, because clearly like he felt strongly enough that this kid was doing bad things, but, you know, was really paranoid that it not get back to him and like didn't want to damage their, and still wasn't, I think to me, one of the most amazing things that's happened in the show so far was his inability to say the word rape.
Yeah. Like he said, he forces girls to have sex against their will. And then Karen says, so he rapes these girls.
So what else does he do to these girls besides rape them? Oh, I didn't say rape.
And Karen, like, it's just like a great beat. Merritt Weaver takes a beat and goes, you said.
Yes, you did.
He had sex with girls again. That's rape.
He forced girls to have sex. That's literally the definition. Oh, no, I didn't say rape.
Man, that word.
So, yeah, it's a very strong word. And apparently one that dare not be spoken.
I guess only used for people they don't know and strangers in parks.
Maybe. I think that's probably it. Like, it's such a violent, horrific word in the English language to describe something that like he knew his friend was kind of douchey, but I think he's not a rapist. And I'm like, but legally.
So then we get to meet douchey.
Yeah. So then douchebag comes in.
So he is probably, I would imagine that every campus police officer in the United States has dealt with this kid.
Like every year. There
is a kid. If not every year, then every other year, you know, like depending on the size of your campus. He from the story we're given, very clearly assaulted a girl. And she ended up not pursuing the charges. We pretty much find out that it's probably because she was paid off or intimidated in some way because this guy is really into who his dad is.
Yes.
And he started spouting all of the really terrible things that I have in other research found that young men of privilege spout to excuse their behavior, which is that, you know, well, it's a real shame they call it rape, because, you know, then that really masks the real victims, and that's why they're the evil ones here.
And it was the whole, you know, this myth that girls frequently, which we know doesn't happen, but frequently this myth make up sexual assault
for a reputation on campus, like
to get attention for whatever reason. And so it was fascinating to put a character in this situation that's just repeating these stereotypes. The girl made it up storyline, and he was like, well, I guess I just picked the wrong girl, and it's a shame for people who are actual real victims of sexual assault that now they're not going to be believed. And but it's one of those ways that this show is engaging with these broader dialogues about what we as a society believe about that is true about sexual assault and rape and people who report it and people who don't. And like, he was an easy fall guy, right? Like I just wrote on my notes, the patriarchy is strong with that one, but there's a lot of people like that. We've all probably encountered people like that in our life.
We may have thought that at times or another, and you may be somebody who always believes survivors, but there's this one story you hear and you go, it happens.
It happens. Yeah. So it was a really not necessarily moving the main plot line forward in terms of finding out who this guy is that is a serial rapist.
But it was a great detour.
We did get more information about this guy at the end when they started expanding their search to look for like breaking and entering. So I was like, B&Es, because
Yeah.
I watch a lot of Law & Order. But like trying to find other patterns.
Yeah.
To maybe see if they could find more victims and get, maybe stumble upon some forensic evidence. And so they start looking at breaking and enterings around the area and different, around this time period and around the Denver area. And they find a woman who reported a man dressed the same, carried a backpack, had a knife, all these things. And she escaped by jumping out her second floor window onto a concrete patio, I believe shattering her pelvis and injuring herself in many other ways. And that was another like gut punching moment when they were describing all of her injuries that she suffered. And there was another beat pause. And somebody said, yeah, but she didn't get raped. So like she was in hospital for 6 months. She had a fractured pelvis, which is, in my medical knowledge, one of the most painful things a human being can experience. But she didn't get raped.
So we don't meet her in this episode, but
No.
we meet her mother. In a scene that I'm sure will go unnoticed by many people, but from our perspective in terms of empathy building and how we deal with other humans, was a very significant scene. The mother is very hostile to the detectives because they feel that her daughter was wronged by the Aurora Police Department, was ignored, nothing was followed up on, nothing was taken seriously.
Yeah.
And then they keep asking, when can we see your daughter? When can we see your daughter? And the mother makes reference to a ceremony that her daughter is at. And Karen just looks at her for a beat and goes, your daughter's a druid. And the mother starts to get really defensive. Like clearly she's expecting these cops to start making fun of it and all this other stuff. And Karen just says, I would never, ever get between you and your daughter and her worship. When she is back,
when the spirit releases her.
She even used the language, the woman.
She knew the language of that religious faith system and used it.
Yep.
Which I thought it's such a small thing and it's absolutely huge. Genius.
And it 100% won trust.
Yeah.
Because now the woman, Karen's able to hand the mom the card and, you can tell by the way the mom closes the door, she's going to make her daughter call.
Yeah.
And it took my breath away. It really did. So, and so now we're set up to maybe meet the broken pelvis girl.
Apologies for not knowing her name, but I'm sure it's on the IMDb somewhere.
I'm sure it's somewhere. We'll identify her by name later.
Yeah.
But we still have this parallel storyline of Marie slowly unraveling completely. No one there to catch her. But our girls in Denver are getting closer and closer and closer.
So we all know at the end of this, they find out who did it. And I think it's one of the most tense whodunit TV shows in a long time.
Even when you know
it happens.
This reminds me of Broadchurch.
Yeah.
Like the first season of Broadchurch.
I could not stop watching this series because I was like, I know they get him, but how and who is it? Oh, I have to keep going. So we will keep going. We will see you all for episode 5 as we continue to move through this series and find more accolades. So if you're not an Unbelievable stan, this is not the YouTube channel for you because
we unabashedly love this thing.
We just have a lot more compliments that we need to share. So we'll see you for episode 5.
Indeed. Bye.
Bye.